Hello everybody, welcome back. So there's a lot of attention obviously in the Grand Swiss at the moment. I thought I'd show a couple of games for the women's section, which is going on currently as well in the same place obviously in Uzbekistan, Samarkand. And so that's sort of the famous trading route on the Silk Road, I believe. So Uzbekistan is quite a mountainous country. I'm not really. I've never been there. Obviously, it's quite a long way away from England. Would like to go at some point, play some of these tournaments. That's what you want to do, right? You want to play against the best players in the world. Otherwise, what's the point? Why even bothering? So this game was quite interesting to me because it featured quite a big blunder and quite a good player. Blundered, which you wouldn't expect. Olga, who's been over 2400 in recent times as well. So he's quite an experienced player. So we got this kind of, looks like a bit like a Perk King's Indian hybrid position. Knight h5 seemed like a decent move. So Queen e8 was possible. Apparently Queen e8 was slightly inaccurate. Maybe Black should go f5 immediately. Which actually is not that obvious how White meets that. Obviously, there must have been a reason. She was. What does it say after f5? Bishop g5 is the best move. It's not obvious. So he went to Queen e8. Yeah, I was thinking actually. I was watching the video. I was wondering about knight f4, but apparently that's not that great because you can take and go knight f3, and then you have a problem defending that pawn. Bishop h6 looks ugly. Don't like that move. H6 is possible, just give up the pawn and go g5, but that was probably not quite enough for the pawn. But apparently you can go g5 and then knight g6, which actually leads to kind of a bit of a murky position, but one that favours white, so very complicated. All these King's Indians are incredibly complex, and I think that's why Olga goes for these kind of things, because she's quite a dangerous attacking player. F4 is quite a good move by Vaishali. And the best move here actually for black was knight g6, according to the engine, what the engines say. And there's some weird line like, if you take on g6, queen g6 is quite comfortable for black. Bobby Fischer used to play those kind of positions quite well. Bishop d7, rook a8. Maybe h5 would happen later. But if you take on e5, that's also possible. The idea queen e5, maybe bishop d4. But then knight h4, you can't take here because of this. Bishop g5 is the line. Yeah, I don't know how much of this they saw in the game, but so went e4, which was fine, and so the critical moment happened a little bit later, and both players are starting to get a bit shorter time. So they really use their time in these tournaments. I think time management is so important. That's what I found now at classical chess. That's what I find at classical chess is that I have this tendency to maybe move too fast at certain moments, and I'm a little bit jumpy, maybe too much caffeine. I don't know if people find that at home as well. They either play too fast or too quickly. You don't get in the right rhythm. But these guys tend to get into time trouble. I've noticed, even the top players in the male section, because they use their time well. You've got 2 hours or whatever you've got, and you need to use it. It's normally 1 hour 30 plus increment to the time control, and then you get extra time. So bishop e3 was played, and g4, excellent move. But this is around about where black blundered. So basically, let me hide the moves. So her thought process is, I'm worried about g5. I'm worried that white is going to attack. So you basically see, I think what she did is, she saw a variation and she saw a possible response to it, but didn't consider all the responses. That's often what happens. So you go down a line and then you forget about something nasty happening earlier in the line. And that happens so often. I've done this so often in calculation, and you're so embarrassed that you've done it. But it happens all the time. So she took here with the knight. So okay, she took here with the knight, and then basically the game is over, because as soon as Vaishali took on d5, when you see from the video, is that she has pauses here. When it's obvious that knight d5 was what she was intending with, she has a big pause. So she's already seen why it's a blunder by this point, because otherwise why would she bother to pause, right? She's looking around to see if there's a... Oh, hang on, what message is it from? Oh no, hang on, it says fatal crash, man dies. I get all these silly notifications, really. Well, obviously not silly for the guy. Sad for him, but... Anyway. Knight d5, rook d5. That's the point. So basically this position is resignable already. And the point is that after queen g6 is forced checkmate, or you lose the queen. You can give up the queen. And that's obviously what she missed, because queen h5 here. So I think probably what she was calculating was what happens after bishop c4, for example. Maybe it was like c6 or whatever, and she's calculating that, and then she's forgetting to look for nastier stuff, right? So it's tactical blunder. But actually, she put up some good resistance here, because even though the position's dead lost, you know, she plays some clever moves. d5 is a great move. But Vaishali really won the game very resolutely. I mean, I was looking at me like, I think rook d5 is good enough to win, technically, because you could just put the rook back on g5 after you take on g6, so technically that's winning. But I like the way she won tactically without giving her opponent any chances at all. She took on h7, because the main point is this poor h7 is a massive attacking weapon. Now after d4, again I was thinking maybe queen g3 by Vaishali. Queen g3, bishop e6 would be played. Not so clear how you win then. Maybe even a move like bishop c1 is possible. But she played absolutely perfect moves. Knight g6. It took on h7, rook g5. I like the way she used a tactical solution to this position. It's just, you know, no messing about. I'm just going to win the game immediately. Took on e3, queen h4. King g7. Now knight e7 I think wins here, where I was calculating the game as well. But the way she did it was simpler. Knight e5 gives black less options. You can't go to f7. So you always look for forward moves, checks and captures, guys. You know, when you're playing, you learn a lot from this technique. Good technique is good tactics, and Vaishali, her instincts is to attack. Her instincts is to play tactically, a bit like her brother Prag. You know, who's also a great tactician. So the point is that I think she resigned it. No, king f8. She played on one more move, because king f8, EV go queen g5, but then rook g8, and then she resigned. Because after you take, then queen f6. Now, there's another interesting game from round 2 that I saw as well when I was watching these videos. So you get these great videos of these games, and you're seeing people's emotions during the game. It really adds to the experience of watching the tournament. You see their emotions, you see what's going on. And on board 1, you had a game between Agrawal Vantika, who's from India, who also I believe was part of India's successful chess team in the Olympiad, the women's team. I think she was one of the boards in that, maybe board 5 or something like that. It's playing against Bibisara Assaubayeva, who I believe is possibly from... Is he from Uzbekistan? Let me look up. I think she might be from that country actually, so it might be like a home fixture for her. Let me look her up. Bibisara chess. Let's do a bit of googling. Born February 26th of February 2004. Kazakhstani, sorry. So I do apologise. So she's from Kazakhstan, not Uzbekistan. It's similar, right? Kazakhstan is actually the largest, similar area, you know, former Soviet state. It's the largest landlocked country in the world. Kazakhstan. Capital is Astana, I believe. So she's only 21, she's young as well. And what about her opponent? Let's look her opponent up. Agrawal, chess. No, Agrawal, sorry. September 2002, so he's 23. Was born in Uttar Pradesh. I'm not sure where it's in India, obviously. Her peak rate was 24.35. I think a lot of people are suffering from deflation now, so you're going down. It's hard to go up. Her rating's gone down now. She's 50 points below her peak. And obviously, if you play in India, there's lots of underrated Indians, kids, who are just going to take points off you. Anyway, let's have a look quickly look at it. What I want to do is want to get into the end game because, so she got into this bad end game, Bibisara, where White has really good chances of a breakthrough. I'm not sure why she allowed King F5. Or maybe King F5, she calculated that King D5 was winning, take the board and then go C5 is probably the reason, yeah. So, what surprised me was what happened later. Actually, there was a couple of talking points about this game. It was around about here on move 60 that on the video, Vantika pauses the clock so that they can get score sheets. Now, I'm not sure what the rules are. Now, I know you can pause the clock if you want to claim a repetition, but whether you can pause the clock to get score sheets, I'm not sure. Because Bibisar was getting some kind of abuse online for why you starting the clock again. But having said that, do you not get extra time on move 60 in this time control? Maybe you don't. So at that point, I think Vantika had about 38 seconds left. So she's losing. I think she lost a few seconds because of the... But anyway, like I say, it's not made clear to the players whether you're allowed to actually stop the clock. So I wouldn't really castigate anyone in that circumstance for restarting the clock. I'm not sure what the rules are myself. The arbiters, somebody mentioned on Reddit that Caruana's right about these arbiters. They're only useful when they're telling you off for dress code or stuff like that. When you need them to do something, they should be there with the score sheets. They should already hand in the score sheets to the players. That's board one as well. Board one, right? Come on, wake up, right? It's not that difficult. They're wandering around looking at the games. When you see the arbiters on the video, they're wandering around looking at the games. Why aren't you doing your job? It's not that difficult, is it, really? I'm having a go at arbiters here, but I don't think you can have a go at these players in these circumstances. But to be fair, the arbiters do a good job. It's often a difficult job, and they're there for many hours. I wouldn't want to be an arbiter because when you're an arbiter, got to walk around. I hate walking around now because I hate standing up. I don't mind walking, but I hate standing. Because my back problems. Then I have these back issues. Anyway, I'm babbling. Right. So basically, White achieved a winning position after they had this little moment, and I really was surprised here that she didn't just take the pawn. Why are you bothering to be the bishop? It's very strange to me. Why didn't she just take the pawn? This looks completely winning. Now, there are some blockade issues that maybe the king can't get over to the queen side easily because of the knight on c5 is blocking the route into e6. But you can get in, can get in via f6. So my threat is just to go king g6, h5, h6. And then I'm going to win the game. I don't think you can. I think you need to use the king. I think you need to go there. That's really the only move. Well, I'll just show you what happened in the game first. We'll come back to this position. Bishop f3, and he took with a bishop, which is actually a terrible blunder apparently. And the main point is that when you take with a bishop, you're allowing this d5 break, which I think she overlooked. She didn't have much time, and. Bibisara defended pretty well after this. And the main point is that once you take the pawn on b5, then it's a draw, because you're going to be able to sacrifice the knight for the H pawn, or you're going to be able to get this position where she got in the game where she can get the king to the blockaded square. It's the wrong rook's pawn. So she defended pretty well. Bishop here, and then it was all pretty hopeless in terms of winning attempt for white after that. I think going back, actually, the reason why she didn't defend the pawn, I think bishop e2 would have been met with, instead of bishop g4, I think that was going to be met with knight e6 check. Was probably the reason she didn't like that move. And if you go king g6 and knight f4, and maybe you even lose. If you go here, then I go here. And then how are you going to win this position? Get this. You know, and then there's going to be knight d4. Like, if you go here, I don't go knight f4, knight h5, because you probably come and take my b pawn, but I can go here and then just give up the... I can just give up the knight for the, you know, if you move the bishop. Well, actually, when you move the bishop, because you move the bishop to d3, I could just take on h5 and then d5. You could go king g7 here, try to be tricky, but knight e2, h6... Knight f4, h7, knight g6 is good for black. So, so anyway, but going back, yeah, I was very surprised he didn't just go like, why bother with bishop f3? Why not take the pawn? So the critical move is king f6. And king g4 should be good. Now, Bibisara during the game, you had this really negative body language around about this point. Obviously, she perked up later when the game turned around. But at this point, this is looking quite bad for black. But I mean, I don't know actually how easy it is to win, because you could go here and then you could put the king on h6. But how do you win it? But I think even king f5 here is winning. King h5, king f6, because then the king's going to get into the queen side. And you're probably not going to be able to defend that position. King f5, king h5, king f6, king g4, king e7, king f4, king takes. Let's say king e3, king c6, knight a4. You see variations like that, and you're like, is that actually winning? Maybe that isn't actually winning, actually. It's kind of borderline, but bishop f7 might be good. Now maybe you can move the bishop. Like bishop f7 might be a much simpler way of doing it. You don't give up your h pawn too easily. I made that mistake in a previous tournament of. So there's a line like bishop f7, knight d7, king f5, knight e5. Then maybe you go bishop d5, king takes h5, king e6, and then you haven't got the knight on a good square. Like then you probably are going to lose both balls. Like knight d3, king takes d6 must surely be winning. Oh, there's still knight b2 there actually, but maybe knight b2. Then you go c5. Takes, yeah, c5 is a winning breakthrough. c5 takes b6. So I just show you that variation. Bishop f7 here, knight e5, bishop d5. Of course, she has to calculate all this with no time on the clock. Here, knight b2 with the idea king c6, knight a4. Oh, no, that's still lost because in the other variation we were talking about the king was on e3, and then you're having trouble getting your bishop round to hit the knight. But like even here, like this is totally winning because you can just go check and then bishop d1, I guess. Yeah, and after knight b2, bishop b3, or knight c3, bishop b3. But I think another way to win is just go c5 immediately, and then this you're not going to be able to stop the pawn. So you can win at your leisure, basically. So I think she was winning, but it was very surprising to me. It just looked such an unnatural move to go bishop f3 when you've got the dominating position. So let's just look at that. King takes h4. What does the computer say? It says this. King g4 is good enough, but not the most active. In fact, you put the king here, weirdly. Yeah, that's maybe the tricky stuff to see. And then you just got to go h5. So it's actually tricky for the knight to deal with it. The knights don't do very well with outside passed pawns. Actually, that's a mistake as well. Yeah, it's kind of tricky, actually. Bishop g8. Yeah, so you could get a variation like this. Yeah, even in the end, it's not that easy to win. But you could actually put the king on f6, which I wasn't aware of. But I would imagine that this is also winning somehow. Let's say they actually want to go back. Okay, because I want to just sort of like get this kind of position. And now you could go bishop f3, and now you're threatening. I think this is like a simpler, more human way to try and win this ending. I mean, surely I could put the king on d4, like it's saying something like this. Can I not? Oh, it's got some kind of blockade. Right, right. Ah, okay. It's actually not so simple to win then. So you do need to have the king on the king side eventually. Like if they go knight c7 here, you go here, and then d5 you have c5. So it's actually quite tricky. Your d5 doesn't work now because of c5, but with the king on d4, c5 will allow knight takes b5 check. So yeah, with no time, it's quite tricky. So maybe I'm being harsh in this game, but it felt kind of an unnatural move to go back to f3. And anyway, that game ended in a draw. So we don't know who the favourites are. I would imagine some of these Chinese players we don't know much about. I think this Kui Jiao is doing well, and Cuisine Song is apparently very good. What I'm hearing. But Vaishali I would say is probably the favourite at this point in the tournament. You know, she's got the most experience, and she's played in some of the better tournaments. She's played in the candidates, so she's probably the favourite. But it remains to be seen. Anyway, thanks for watching that video. Please like and subscribe, and so on.